Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Way podcast. We've passed the halfway point of the international break and we're ready to look ahead to the big game against City at the weekend. For a change though, the international break has yielded some big talking points with some big boy performances from some of the Reds representing their national sides and the Premier League dishing out a 10-point penalty to Everton that puts them firmly back into the drop zone, for now anyway. Before turning our attentions to the weekend, we'll be answering some brilliant questions from the listeners. Some of them are a bit bizarre, but that probably says more about us than it does about them. I'm Chris Smith, and joining me for this one are Paul Natton, Julian Richards, and TLW editor Dave Usher. Dave, we're recording this on Monday evening. How's it going, man? I was on to you the other day, seeking a little bit of solidarity about how the international breaks can, negatively affect your mental health because you've got no focal point to the weekend. And your response was, "I love them." Because I have to do less work. So I was just like, well, I'm not getting any fucking sympathy there, am I?
It's a weekend off.
Love for you. You got no love for your fellow man.
No, weekend off. And also it means next week I'm not having to do a roundup as well. So, yeah, I don't mind the odd international break. But I'm glad this is the last one for a while because it's just been so stop-start. This start of this season's been a joke, really. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, once this one's out the way, yeah, we can just get stuck into it then, can't we? It's just really unfortunate that we're coming back to this game.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get more onto that later. Yeah. 12:30 Saturday morning kickoff away at Manchester City. Definitely not ideal. Probably the worst thing you could possibly come back to, actually. But as I said, Jules, the international break's been good. We had a goal for Darwin. We had 2 goals for Diaz. A wonderful moment with his dad in the crowd. Szoboslai got a couple. I think it was last night. And Trent had a big stuck his claim for the England centre midfield spot. So, what have you made of it all?
I haven't seen any of that.
Okay, Paul, what have you made of it all?
When you go to Jules, you've got to go Wales, surely. What have I made of it? I've only seen the goals on Twitter because I just don't really watch international football. But yeah, it does feel like, they've all three. Who did you mention there? Darwin, Diaz, and
Szoboslai
and Dom. Yeah, all of them scored some absolute peaches. And kind of what it really made me do, it just really whetted my appetite for, when they come home. I want to see more of that when they get back here. Particularly Dom, to be honest, Chris. I think, well, understandably, Dom's been mightily praised since he's been playing for us. But I thought we were going to see a little bit more end product. I'm not saying I thought he was going to be like, a 15, 20 a season man. But I thought there had been at least, I think has he got 2 so far? They're both quite early in the season.
Yeah. One in the
cup.
was
that absolute rocket, and was it just one he's got?
No, he's got 2. He scored a left-footed volley in the league, and he scored that one from outside the box against Leicester in the cup.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Yeah, I was there that night. It's the one I can remember. I just thought we'd have seen a few more goals from him, and it got me really pondering: is that because of the difference in roles that he's got when he plays for Hungary compared to when he plays for Liverpool? Has he got a bit more licence, a bit more freedom? I mean, certainly I think, I'm not saying he's shackled for us, he isn't shackled, but you see him drifting wide to allow Mo to come in a little bit more. And what I'm really hoping is that he just brings some of that hunger for goal scoring and that goal threat back with him. I mean, I think Darwin, it's pretty consistent with what we've seen from him all season. He's looking like, a much more confident, much more informed player than he was last season. If not quite absolutely smashing the door down yet, but looks like it's in the post. And Diaz, I mean, fucking hell, boys, I got a little bit choked up watching that one when he scored those, and his dad was going nuts in the in the crowd. Honestly, I had a little moment of reflection, thinking how old I am that I'm starting to tear up at a football match. Somebody scoring a goal at a footy game. So yeah, all bodes really well. Nice to see. Trent, can't really comment because I haven't watched it. I did see I did see a little bit of coverage saying that he'd done well, and I think if I'm Trent, I'd be well and truly trying to stake my claim out for that slot because I think he's probably better than virtually anyone else who could play there. I mean, they are getting a little bit spoiled for riches. I think at the moment they've got a lot of good players who can play in and around those positions, but certainly Henderson should be. If Southgate's going back to Henderson again, I think he wants his head looking. He's yesterday's man. And I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be Trent. I mean, he's by far and away experienced enough, talented enough. He's got the winning experience. He's won everything in the game. Why would you not put Trent in there? He's fantastic, one of the best footballers in the world. So good luck to him, well done. And if that's what he wants, go for it. Just don't get injured when you're playing for them and I'll be sound.
Mm-hmm. Dave, you must have been purring with that Darwin goal, and it's kind of contrary to what we've been saying a little bit in terms of his poise in his finishing. Just that little pause he gave to allow the goalkeeper to move and then just blast it through his legs was something that we've been calling for a little more of recently.
Can I shock you? I wasn't that impressed. I was a bit concerned, if anything.
He had an argument with me in the group chat about it, Chris. Bloody hell! I was bigging up Darwin, and he's telling me it wasn't that good.
No,
he's on a rib here.
I'm not. I'm honestly not. I always look at when a striker finishes, I always look at it and think, has he got lucky there, or is that a good finish? And I know he had the little pause, and it looks like it was really composed in that, but the goalkeeper's just dived out the way. It's gone through his legs. I feel like on another day that it's the keeper's legs, and everyone's like, "Oh, that was shit. He's just blasted at the keeper." So I thought he should have gone across the keeper when he done that little feint. But what I didn't know at the time, Paul, when I was talking to you about it, I watched highlights of the game. There's a 10-minute highlight package on there. And he went through one-on-one in the first half. And he tried that finish, the Newcastle finish. He's ran through and he's blasted across the goal and he hit it about 6 yards wide. And I'm like, okay, so when he's gone through in the second half, that's why he's not gone for the far corner, because that's probably in his mind, and he's just gone for power and it's gone in. But I'm not looking at that and thinking, oh, okay, so we're starting to show more composure. I'm looking at that and thinking, yeah, mate, you scored, but if that hits the goalkeeper, I'm having to defend you to everyone who's going on about your shit finishing. So I wasn't overly convinced by it, but I'm pleased for him that he scored. And the best part of it was the celebration. Did you see what he did?
No.
Ran to Suarez, didn't he?
Did he? Oh,
yeah. Suarez was warming up on the touchline. He ran straight over there, and at the end of the game he's celebrating with him as well.
So we got I'll have to go back and have a look. 7 minutes into the podcast before mentioning Suarez.
We're talking about Uruguay. What are you expecting? What was interesting, earlier in the week, there was, I think Suarez done an interview. We've probably seen some of the quotes from it when he was talking about giving advice to Darwin and Liverpool. I don't know who, but he said Liverpool asked him to speak to him. I'm like, well, that could only really be Hendo. Nobody else is even there from his time, so it was probably Hendo maybe said. It was after the sending off, against Palace. But anyway, he's taking over the number 9 shirt for Uruguay because Suarez, I don't know if he'd retired or he'd been left out the squad or something. The torch had been passed, but then Suarez has gone on this hot streak again, and he's recalled to the squad. Bielsa's brought him back, and the talk was, he's the number 9 now anyway. But Darwin wasn't wearing number 9. Suarez is still number 9. I think Darwin was 19, something like that. Well, 29, I don't know, whatever it was, he wasn't wearing a number 9 shirt. He's obviously being it's sign of respect. He's no, you're back in the squad, this is your shirt. I'm like, yeah, nice. I like that. That's what I'd have done as well. That's the right thing to do.
Brilliant.
Chris is just vomiting now.
Isn't he?
No.
Yeah. We'll see. Give it a few months when he's banging the goals in for Inter Miami, and he'll be worse than us with Suarez.
To be fair, I did do a massive about face when it came to Messi.
Yeah.
I won't repeat what I was calling him before that.
You've already said it, Annie. Yeah, you've already said it.
You'll be in some press conference with Suarez and Messi, absolutely buzzing in about a year's time, and we all know it's true.
I'm gonna send you a selfie of me and him together.
It's right.
just the pictures off. But just another thing on that finish. You see loads of shots like that, low and hard.
I know, and I feel the same way about them. I don't feel like they're good finishes.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
It's not a high percentage finish. A lot of the time it's going to hit the keeper's legs, and everyone's going to go, "What are you doing?" Hitting it straight at the keeper.
Yeah. Chris, I thought it was boss. I'm with you. I thought it was a great goal.
All right, good.
Jules, you need to have your say on that. Was it Cisse-esque?
I haven't seen it.
Ah,
What part of I haven't seen it? As Paul said, the only thing I've seen at this international break is Wales scraping a poor draw away at Armenia, meaning that we're not. It's the qualifications no longer in our hands. So even if we beat Turkey tomorrow night, we might not get where we need to be. A game that I'm down to travel 7 hours round trip to go and see, by the way. So that's commitment to the international break.
Sorry, Jules, I just nodded off there. Can you repeat that, please?
Fair enough.
we were all thinking it. You were the one who said it.
Oh man, I do feel bad for that. I do feel bad about that. Not too bad because I'm still laughing. But one more thing on Szoboslai's finish. Now, Paul, you said that that's something you want to see more of from him, but it really did showcase his ability, Dave. Like, we haven't seen. I looked at those finishes and I thought that looks like peak Black Ronaldo,
Peak Suarez.
Portuguese Ronaldo. I don't know, just the way he whipped the ball into the corner on that first one. It was just like, and
Which I have only seen one of them. I'm on about the one when he dribbles past about 4 players and there's a little nutmeg in there. That was Suarez-esque, start with a nutmeg. But I haven't seen the other one. You said the other goal was good as well. I've not seen.
Yeah, well, it's just a little 1-2 that he followed through on, and a neat little finish with the outside of his boot into the corner, keeping no chance. And it was like within 2 minutes of each other as well.
He had 2 assists last week as well. I think one of them was in stoppage time or something. That result was, I think that put them through. And he had 2 assists and then 2 goals in the next game, so he's flying, which is good because the last couple of games for us he's dropped off slightly. He's not quite looked like the man. He's not that he's been, well, he was bad at Luton. He wasn't bad in like the next game, but he wasn't great either. He wasn't at his best, so hopefully like recharge the batteries away with his country and he'll come back and he'll be flying on Saturday because we need him to be.
Chris, I kind of know what you mean about that comparison. It's kind of like, I mean, in terms of physique, there's a similarity, isn't there, with that height? And he kind of glides. He kind of glides when he runs with the ball in a very similar. It does remind me a little bit of him. You're right. It's a good shout, that. But he just has this kind of aura about him, and it's not like the machismo thing that Dave was talking about, which he's like the big alpha male, and that, I do see that as well. But it's kind of like this, just almost. It's like a different version of Virgil's imperiousness, just at the other end of the pitch in those goals. And I think just like I said before, I just want to see a little bit more of that from us. Get him a little bit closer to goal. Just take a few of those chances on. Have a few of those opportunities. I just wonder if Kloppo's just got him a little bit focused on the tactical setup at the moment, and maybe he just hasn't quite got the license that he's got for Hungary, which I don't have a problem with. You know what I mean? We're building a new team, and I'm sure the shackles will come off at some point. But I just would like to see. It'd be nice to see some of that for us, wouldn't it?
Well, learn the other stuff first because we know he's got that in his locker. It's get him concentrating on the other stuff, and then this will obviously come in naturally. It'll just come over time. It's exciting now seeing what he can do.
Really exciting, I agree.
Yeah. One more thing to comment on from the international break, Jules, is I know you're not too interested in anything that happens with England, but the Trent's comments on getting to play in midfield were kind of eye-opening, really. He spoke about how it's kind of given him a sort of like newfound desire for international football, and like he said, he spends so much time thinking about like getting in that team for Germany in the summer and stuff. Like there was a part of me that thought of that as a little bit of a shot across the manager's bow, really, like just sort of going out of his way to make the point of the fact that he don't want to be playing right back anymore. Like, have you got any problem with that?
I think he's been overindulged anyway. I think I've said that I don't like the formation that we've created to stick him in midfield, and I don't really think he's producing anything extra in midfield that he was producing at right back, except now the team's a little bit unbalanced on that right hand side. If he said that about England, we can go play for England, I couldn't give a shit, to be honest with you. If he wants to really play for England, that's entirely up to him, but don't expect me to like his comments about that. And yeah, it does sound like a little bit of a dig at Klopp. Maybe it wasn't intended that way, but if it's as you've described, yeah, it does sound like that. Not bad.
Yeah. Well, he said My specific skill set and what I'm best at is someone who plays in the middle. He is quoted as saying by the Times. Someone who controls the game, controls the tempo, creates, breaks lines, progresses the ball up the pitch. You probably get more out of me from being in the middle, and I'm able to show off my skill set as much as possible. Yeah. What do you reckon, Dave? Any problem with that?
I don't agree. I haven't got a problem with it if that's what he thinks, but I think he's wrong. You know, he was the world's best right back. Is he going to be the world's best central midfield player? No. So I think I think what happened is, like, last season, it reached a point where it almost looked like he was resenting playing right back. He didn't want to do it. He wasn't really doing the dirty aspects of the job. I wouldn't go as far as to say he felt like it was beneath him, but at times it looked that way. And, you know, Jules said there about he's being overindulged. Again, I don't know if I'd want to go that far, but I can't particularly put up much of an argument against it either. You know, it's not that, like, I can't say that's never crossed my mind, because it has a little bit. I didn't like it. I didn't like the comments about midfield. I didn't take it as a dig at Klopp until I seen you mentioned it, and then I was like, maybe. I hadn't thought about it like that until then, and I'm not willing to go that far. I think it might come across a little bit like that. I don't think that's how it was meant, but who knows, really. But he was talking about breaking the lines and scoring goals, and I'm like, what am I? I'm not seeing this. Like, maybe once or twice in a game you might break the lines. Where are the goals? He's not scoring goals. You know, so he's not. I don't think he's more productive in this role than he was when he was playing right back. It just means now he's not having to do as much defending because Konate's having to do a lot of it, or Matip if he's playing. So we've spoke about the system and whether we'd like to see him playing right back again, and you know, the results speak for themselves. Since he moved into the middle, we've had much better results. Now, I don't think it's specifically just because of that, but as I say, the results do speak for themselves. We've only lost one game, and that was a game which we didn't really lose. You know, there's a massive asterisk next to it. So I don't think you can argue too much about, like, the actual results that we've got from it. But with the eye test, I feel like we were getting more out of him when he was playing right back, and we were playing that style of football. Now, maybe that's just gone forever and we're not going to get it back, and like, football's moved on. Now everyone, like, well, not everyone, but the top teams all want to play this way because, you know, City do it, Arsenal do it, we do it. There's the top 3 teams in the league all playing this system. So maybe we just have to get used to that. But yeah, I've still got question marks about it, and I just feel like it's a bit of a waste. Like, Trent, I don't want him there every week, but Trent at right back, what he did for years, you know, I don't want to lose that forever just because he's now, and as Jules said there, the team is unbalanced at times. You know, like, players will, like, look to the right hand side and there's no one there, and then they have to come back, and it's all really narrow, especially when you haven't got Robbo on the left as well. So yeah, I didn't really like the comments that much, but I don't know whether we're reading too much into it or not.
Not as fun to watch either, is it, anymore?
No, it's not. It's not.
I think we are in too much into it there. I mean, obviously Trent's my boy, always has been. Absolutely love him. I think he's fantastic. A couple of thoughts there. I can't argue with what Dave said about, you know, the comments don't really ring true with what we've seen. You know, describing his game in that way doesn't ring true with what we've seen. I think Jules' point about the lack of balance is a good one. Valid, although that's on Klopp, not on Trent. I think in terms of the comments, for me, I think it's just that thing that you see with all top players, the very best players, when things are not quite exactly as they want them to be in their careers, that, you know, that it's about telling themselves, that sort of talking themselves up, and they're reacting to the pressure, they're reacting to the situation that they've been in. You know, and he was under a lot of pressure. You know, basically, he was going week to week, day to day, probably on that TalkSport shite that Dave has on in the car, hearing about how can he defend, can't he defend. I mean, that was just like an ongoing, on a loop constantly, and he must have got that. Would get to anybody, that, particularly when the team aren't doing well, that would just grind you down. And so I don't blame him for wanting to set a stall out for England, because the benchmark at that level, these guys are major winners, you know, in terms of the mentality, that winning mentality, that desire for excellence. You know, if you're not in the England team, regardless of what you think about international football, that's the way they all measure themselves, isn't it, against each other? if you're not in that England team, then you're not as good as you think you are. So for him, it's about staking out a place, and you know, he's trying to mark his turf, I guess. The other thought that occurs is that there's an element of the whole Stevie-itis thing, you know, where Stevie could play loads of different positions, and there was, I mean, at a similar age, maybe slightly older, you know, Rafa was starting to move Stevie around, and there's a sense that Stevie didn't like where he was playing. I mean, got to say that Stevie put his stamp on every single position he played and dominated games wherever. But there is kind of we always got the sense that Gerrard would play where he was told because he was told, but really what he preferred to be was that rampaging number 8 that he started out as. I think, well, certainly I feel that the best football he ever played was when he won the PFA Player of the Year award. He was coming in off the right. He had Crouchy in there. I think Torres was in there, and I just thought he was absolutely. He got 20 goals, I think, didn't he, that season?
He didn't like it though, did he?
No, but he didn't like it. He didn't like it, and he was, but absolutely fantastic football. He was constantly. There was just a vibe that's what he didn't want to do, but it was his best footy. So I've got no problem with Trent having opinions. I certainly don't. I'd be astounded if it's a dig at Klopp. It's not as malign as that. It's not as he's not even thinking that deeply about it. There's a microphone in front of me. I've got to talk about the thing that everyone goes on about with me all the time. Why don't I play for England? I need to stick out a verbal case for me playing for England. So he's just talking himself up in the role. I've got no problem with it at all.
And he's, you know, I guess he is representing England when he's making those comments as well. Like he's got an England tracksuit on, sitting in front of an England fucking sponsorship board. But yeah, fair enough. I take your point. So moving on then from the international break, Jules, come to you first on this again because having not seen much of the footy during the international break, you haven't had much of a chance to contribute so far. So Everton have been docked 10 points immediately by the Premier League, which puts them back in the relegation zone on 4 points, joint bottom. I mean, this is something that's split opinion among Liverpool fans. Certainly I have a more sympathetic viewpoint towards them than a lot of people I've spoken to. How do you view this situation?
Have Everton been docked 10 points? So hang on, let's approach this from one.
Don't tell me that's not been reported in Wales, because I'm not going to believe you.
Well, yeah, with this weird sort of like Scouse thing that they think all Evertonians are Welsh, and it's like I've never met a Welsh Evertonian, so I don't know what you lot are trying.
They're all North Wales, you're in South Wales.
North Wales, right, okay. So why do you think Everton are hard done by, Chris?
I think that they've been picked on. I think they're an easy target. And this is the sign of the Premier League acting like they're being tough. And when it comes to the other people who have flouted the rules, nothing will happen. I think it's just that they've picked on an easy target, and the punishment is excessive.
Right. Because you think Manchester City aren't going to get punished.
Precisely.
Because that might be true, but it doesn't mean that Everton have been unfairly punished. Manchester City aren't complying with the Premier League, are they? That's half the problem. They're not presenting data and financials to them. They haven't been for 4 or 5 years. They've basically closed the shop on that, and it's hard for the Premier League. It's been hard for the Premier League to investigate. Everton, to their credit, gave the books over and were quite transparent in the end about it. You know, even when they came to sort of saying they'd made more losses during COVID than anybody else, they did at least show that their workings out, even if their workings out were incorrect. The test case, I suppose, would be Chelsea, right? Because Chelsea are in a bit of bother from the Abramovich era, but by all accounts, the current Chelsea ownership, Todd Bowley and all those fellas, have just been like, yeah, these accounts are wrong, but look, it's nothing to do with us, but these accounts aren't going to be right, and there's been some chicanery. So that would, if that case gets dealt with before City and nothing happens to Chelsea.
They haven't been charged, Jules. They're still investigating that.
But what I'm saying is, how long do you think that City case? I think that City case has got years and years to run, right? But if Chelsea are being very transparent, I would guess that a charge and a punishment will appear before the City case ends. Would be my guess.
And it's fewer charges as well.
Well, there is that
case,
as well.
Yeah.
There is that as well. I suppose you have to ask the teams who've been relegated, have Everton been unfairly punished? They were able to still sign players and gain whatever traction they could from signing those players when they were under scrutiny. They'd overspent massively, and they managed to get away with surviving in the Premier League. And that's not only that, they've been charged this season, which has been a massive boost for them because the 3 promoted teams are terrible. If this had happened last season, Everton would be relegated. But this
season before as well.
Yeah, but this season they're not getting relegated. They're going to survive. They'll survive with this 10-point deduction, and they should thank the Premier League for delaying the result. So that it's happened this season, not last season, because they would be in relegation last season, and they would be in real fucking trouble in the.
Did you see the other thing? Did you see the other thing, Jules? Just a small point to come in on there. That they were in dialogue with the Premier League since 2021 when they first said they had trouble, and at that stage the Premier League were advising them that if they shut down the spending on players and wages, and they really thought carefully about not committing big money anymore, they'd be able to get themselves out of it without being charged, and they just decided to roll the dice and continue spending anyway. So they were basically in a situation whereby they'd admitted the situation that they were in. The Premier League accepted what they were saying. There was an agreed course of action which would make them avoid rule breaking and sanctions, and they just thought, no, fuck it, let's roll the dice. We'll just sign more players. We'll just pay more wages.
And they survived. And they survived because of it.
Sympathy. Yeah.
And they'll probably face some legal action from the teams relegated. And if I was a supporter or an owner of one of those teams, I'd feel rightly aggrieved because they've dodged it and they'll get away with it this season. I just feel like both things can be true. I don't think City will get punished because I just think City have got the weight of a state behind them, and that's not fair. And as a result, I don't think they'll get the punishment to fit their crime. But Everton have had the punishment to fit their crime. Mm-hmm. And it's not like they've been insidious like Manchester City with suddenly the biggest sponsorship revenue in the history of football globally, which is just dubious because it's from the country and a company owned by their owners or part owned. They knew they knew full well what they were doing, and they've banked on. They can harumph all they want about 10 points is too draconian. It's not. I will say as well though, the Premier League, there's some performance from the Premier League here. This is performative because they don't want to have an independent regulator, and this is them going, look, we can't police ourselves. Look, 10-point penalty for a fan. Yeah, there is definitely an element of that. I suppose you could look at it from the tribal point of view, which is Everton have had 10 points deducted. Let's all laugh, and it is hilarious. And then there is if you're taking more open-minded sort of, not neutral view, but if you take a step back and look a bit more fairly, I just think there are many working parts to this, and a lot of things can be true. I think what you say there, a lot of that is true, but I think ultimately Everton have been punished for something they have done. They can't really complain about it.
Mm-hmm. I think just to push back on a couple of points from you there, I think they've basically it came down to a 19.5 million shortcoming, which by Premier League football standards these days isn't a lot of money at all. It's basically like a couple of agents' fees for a couple of transfers, right? It's in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much money.
That's oversimplifying it. It's way, way, way worse than that.
Why?
Because so the 19.5 million that's what put them over the allowable limit of losses, but they lost over 300 million in 3 seasons. Now they wrote off. They're allowed to write off some of it with like some. And this is not Everton. This is just all clubs are allowed to do this if they want. You can put through all kinds of bullshit numbers about what the women's teams cost. What youth expenses, stadium costs, all of that stuff. So they wrote off 180 million on that, even though they never spent 180 million on all that. So that got them down further. And then basically they got themselves in this trouble because they got taken over by a dodgy Russian fella who used Usmanov as a front man, and he went on like a wild spending spree.
You mean use Moshri as a front man?
Sorry, yeah. He went on like a spending spree where they were like Floyd Mayweather in a fucking strip joint. They were just throwing cash around on everything. They bought a shitload of players for like massive money. spending more than they should have been spending, and it bit them in the arse because the players they bought were all shit and had no resale value, and they lost a load of money on all of those players, which is what put them in the mess that they were in. Now, as Paul said, they went to the Premier League in 2021 and they said, we're in a bit of trouble here, we're just letting you know we're over the allowable limits. What can we do to get back down? They were told, don't buy any more players, don't be handing out new contracts with like higher wages and stuff. And they just ignored it. They went and they bought more players. They gave a new contract to Pickford, for example. So there's that element of it, but there's more to it than that as well. What they tried to do to get the figures down, and this is why it was rejected, and it was like, what are you talking about? So they said player X. They could have sued player X, and they didn't. And that would have brought in like an extra, I think it was 10 million or something, whatever it was. Yeah. So they said they could have sued player X for 10 million. So that's 10 million pounds towards the losses. Well, you couldn't have sued him because player X was never charged with anything. So how's he breached his contract? So that was bollocks. And then it gets even more sketchy, the other things that they're talking about. So Daniel Levy's partly to blame, apparently, because he wouldn't pay 80 million for the Richarlison. So this is not even like taking the piss. This is what it's
going full Evertonian now.
They sent this to the Premier League as like reasons for why the finances were the way they were. They were banking on 80 million for the Richarlison, and Tottenham would only give them 60. So they've gone, there's 20 million there. Well, just because you value Richarlison at 80 million doesn't mean anyone else does. A player is worth what somebody's willing to pay, and the only dickheads who would have paid 80 million for Richarlison is Everton, and they already had him, so they couldn't do it anyway. So they tried to say that 20 million. So that was like nonsense. Another thing that they tried to do was the season when they appointed Benitez. They said they budgeted to finish 6th that season when they hired Rafa, and they finished 16th. And they were like, so we lost a load of money there. We were budgeting to finish 6th, and we didn't finish 6th. Well, nobody had them finishing 6th. Not even Everton fans would have said, we're going to finish 6th. They just appointed Benitez. They were all down in the dumps because they didn't want Benitez. But this is one of the things that they were saying as like their excuse for why they'd lost this money. The other thing was, then Putin invaded Ukraine, and that cost us 200 million. Now, why did that cost you 200 million, Everton?
Wait, hang on. Putin invaded Ukraine?
Is that happen? International break, Jules, when you switched off? No. So, they've said that cost them a 200 million pound naming rights thing for the new stadium. A new stadium which isn't even finished yet, by the way. But this is the thing, you're talking about like Everton are not doing what Man City did, and no, they're not. But they tried to do it on a smaller scale because this is exactly that. Getting sponsored by your owner. So, and also 30 million went to Everton from Usmanov, not for naming rights to the stadium, but to have first refusal on naming rights in the stadium. So that was just a way for him to funnel 30 million quid into the club, which is what we're saying about Newcastle doing with the Saudi sponsorships, and Man City have been doing it. It's we know what they're doing. So they got 30 million basically for nothing as like first refusal for Usmanov, his company, with the naming rights for the stadium. And they said, and he was going to give us another 200 million, and that fell through because he got blackballed after like Russia invaded Ukraine, and all the dodgy Russians no one wanted them involved in football, so Abramovich is kicked out, Usmanov blackballed. So if that was a legitimate deal, like if their stadium naming rights is worth 200 million quid, so he's no longer on the table, well, why can't you find somebody else? Even if you only get 150 million rather than 200, if 200 is like a fair reflection on what that's worth, surely you would have found somebody else to do it. So that was bullshit as well. Then there was COVID. The COVID thing, this is hilarious. So they claimed 88 million in like player value depreciation because of COVID. So they said that when COVID happened, the value of their players plummeted. So players who they wanted to sell were no longer worth the money that they wanted. Now, the only other team in the Premier League that claimed for this was Aston Villa, and I think their figure was 15 million. Everton had 88 million on that, and no other Premier League club claimed anything for that because it's bullshit. The player valuations did not go down because of COVID. The market went absolutely mental afterwards, because remember we were all saying, how are all these clubs spending money when, well, except us? We were like saying, why aren't we spending? Everyone else is spending, why are we not spending? Because like FSG were careful after COVID and didn't want to overcommit to anything, and everyone else was just like spending money like it was going out of fashion. But Everton are trying to say they lost 88 million on the value of their players who they wanted to get rid of. Well, yeah, they did, but it wasn't because of COVID. It was because people actually seen these players play and were like, well, you paid 50 million for him. Now, the players, I'm not even going to go through them all, but off the top of my head, you've got Sigurdsson, you've got Davy Klaassen, Cenk Tosun, Yannick Bolasie, and there's probably a shitload who I've completely forgotten about. All ones who they signed between 30, 50 million, whatever, and who are worth nothing like what they paid for. And then, when it comes to getting rid of them, well, they're not worth what Everton have paid for, but they were never worth that to begin with. It wasn't because of COVID, it was because they overpaid and nobody else was going to spend that money on those players. So they lost all of that money, and yeah, the 88 million is probably an accurate number in terms of the depreciation of the player values, but it wasn't because of COVID. But they put like through massive COVID losses, not including this, which I think this was just rejected. The Premier League rejected that number, but they'd already put through huge COVID losses, more than any other Premier League club. Well, how are they losing more than Man United when Man United's stadium's like twice the size? It was all just a nonsense. Ultimately, they spent a load of money that they shouldn't have been spending. They didn't gain any advantage from it because most of what they bought was shite. But that's irrelevant. They've broken the rules that they agreed to. All the Premier League clubs have agreed to abide by these rules. And the Premier League gave them every opportunity to stay within these rules after it was brought to their attention that they were in trouble because they overspent. They carried on doing it anyway. And the punishment, it's not harsh. The punishment is what it is. They've not just come up with this arbitrary number of 10 points. They've not just sat there and gone, what do you reckon we should do here? 12 points, 10 points, 5, what do you think? No, it's 6 points for going over, and then it's 1 point for every 5 million over. So that's where they come to the 10. It's not like they've just plucked that number out of thin air. So it's not harsh. This is what all the clubs agreed to. The Premier League clubs all know this is how it is. You can't make these kind of losses over a period of time, because if you do, this is the punishment. So the punishment is what it is. The Premier League made the charges against them. It then goes to an independent panel, which is different, like judges, King's Council, whatever it is. It's an independent panel, and they looked at all the evidence. It was like 40-odd thousand documents. So they've gone through all of that, and they've gone, yeah, you haven't really got a leg to stand on. Everton never denied being guilty. They were just saying, well, there's mitigating circumstances for the guilt, but the mitigating circumstances that they gave were just absolutely, they were a nonsense. And the thing that's winding me up about it, if honestly, hands on heart, if I'm an Evertonian, I'm looking at this and going, okay, it's 10 points. I'm glad we've got this now, because if we'd have got this last year, we were fucked. If it was the year before, we were fucked. And this is when they were committing those offences, by the way. They're not committing that offence now. This is in seasons where they managed to survive by like a point, 2 points, whatever, finishing fourth from bottom. Teams who've gone down, who've played by the rules, they've stayed within these limits. Everton did not do that, and those teams did. So if I'm a Burnley fan, if I'm a Leeds fan, I'm looking at that and going, we've played by the rules and you didn't, and we got relegated and you stayed up. That's not right.
But this doesn't address that. It doesn't redress the losses that those teams have
suffered. But it will do, because
it.
The guilty verdict means they can now go after them for compensation. But that's a whole other discussion, which don't want to get too deep into that. But the point is, they cheated. They did gain an advantage because, in theory, Jordan Pickford maybe should have been sold to get them under the limits. And Jordan Pickford, and the season before, Jordan Pickford and Richarlison kept them up, the way they played the last half dozen games of the season, whatever. Last season, without Pickford, they're going down. He saves a penalty at Leicester, remember, like a massive game towards the end of the season. So players who, in theory, they probably shouldn't have still had at the club have helped them survive. They bought Tarkovsky when they shouldn't have been signing him, and he's a really good player for them. They stayed up.
You just made me think there, Dave. Not only that, might have cost us the fucking title as well.
Well,
sold Pickford. He wouldn't have injured Virgil. And we would have had Virgil throughout that season.
I mean, another thing which, like, if all these clubs are going after Everton, I mean, not that we would, but we missed out on the title by a point in a season when we drew at Goodison.
Yeah.
Man City, I don't know, I'm assuming City took 6 points off them like they usually do. So, like, in theory, that could have cost us the title. Like, they're cheating if you want to go down that road. I don't want to go down that road because I'd rather look at Man City. But then that brings me to the other big point here. Up until when was the verdict with the punishment? Was it Friday? I think it was Friday, wasn't it, when it came out? Yeah. Okay. So up until, say, like 9 o'clock Friday morning, Everton fans did not give a shit about Manchester City's cheating. We've been telling them for years, and we've been told, shut up, you crying cop-ites. They were an arse, they were singing Blue Moon, they were wearing the T-shirts. Remember the T-shirt when they played City? It's not the winning, it's the taking part. All of that good stuff where, like, buzzing off Man City winning titles because they were stopping us from winning it. That's all fine. You know what? That's fine. That's how they want to do it. I understand. Given like the shit that they've had to deal with for so long, I understand why they would be like that. But it's funny watching now how it's like, what about Man City's cheating? Well, up until Friday, you've never mentioned it. You didn't give a shit about it. And now, because you've been punished, you're going, well, what about them? They're far worse, which they are. They are far, far, far worse. That's why they've got 115 charges and not the one charge. And I just think it's saying like, oh, well, they've been harshly dealt with because of hypothetically what may or may not happen to Man City. I don't think we can say that. Judging it on what Everton did and what the punishment was, it's totally just. They should be grateful that it's happened now because they'll be fine. They got a 10-point deduction and never even went to the bottom of the league. That's how shit the newly promoted teams are. Everton will beat Man United next week and they'll be out the bottom three. So they should just be like, you know what, we'll take it now, because if it had happened another season, we were in big trouble. We can ride this out now and we can survive. So they should have just accepted that and gone, yeah, fine, let's just get on with it and get on with the business of staying up. They've not done that. They're kicking off and all this about you've picked on the wrong club and Premier League, we're coming after you. What are they going to do? I don't understand. What are they actually going to do? I don't get it. It's just bizarre to me. But going back to the Man City thing with Everton, they're going on about like we've been done and City haven't. Well, yeah, because it's 115 charges. It took them 4 years to even collate all of those charges like together, and because there's so much going on. It's so deep, that investigation that they're having to do. The Everton one was pretty straightforward. The Chelsea one will be relatively straightforward if charges are brought with that one. The Man City one is anything but straightforward, and I understand, like, I would be thinking if I'm an Everton fan, well, hang on, they're far, far worse than us, but we've been punished and they haven't. But there's a good reason for that. You know, you've got to be so careful when you go after Man City. You've got to make sure every I is dotted and every T is crossed, because if it's not, the legal team from City is going to come at you. So they've got to make sure that the case is airtight. They've got all of this like crap being thrown at them with City, not cooperating with anything, dragging it out as long as possible. It's like you can't put Everton's off until, you can't say, right, well, we're not going to deal with you, Everton, until we've dealt with like Man City's 115 charges. You deal with the one that you can deal with and get that out the way. That's done now, and now they can go concentrate on Man City. Now, I don't know how long that's going to take. I've got no great hopes for what will happen, but I do think because they went so strong with Everton, and when I say strong, what I mean is like they've gone as like within their powers, like this is what we can do for this crime. That's what they've done. They've not like been lenient and said, oh well, we'll let them off with this. No, they've gone by the book. They've punished them with the correct punishment for the offences committed. And I'm sure they would love to do that to Man City. Whether they can or not, who knows? The only thing that makes me think maybe they can do something is it's not going to court, where like, you know, City's lawyers will just tie it up in all like legalese and stuff. It's not going to be like that, because it's an independent panel that deals with it. and you've got to abide by, like, you can appeal it, but you've got to abide by it basically after the appeal's heard. So this is not a case of City going, well, we'll go to the High Court, because apparently you can't do that. You were telling me that, Paul. You'd read that. So that does make you think maybe the Premier League do have, like, some power to do something.
That's in the constitution of the Premier League, that you can't take it to the civil courts. What you can do, I guess, because all sport can, is you can go to CAS. But we've got to remember that when City...
They'll be like, oh, you again.
Yeah.
Hang on, I thought they couldn't go to CAS either.
Let's not forget, like, the last couple of times they went to CAS. So the first time, 2014, they were found guilty and fined. Second time, 2020, they were found guilty. They were given a 2-year ban from European competition and a transfer ban, I think. And then they went to CAS and had it overturned on a technicality. But CAS stood by the €10 million fine for obfuscation and obstruction. So those are the tactics that they're using right now. They've been using throughout. I mean, from my perspective, the thing that I'm most pleased about is, and I absolutely take on board the point that I think Chris made, that or maybe Jules, that, you know, the league are only kind of like really starting to get serious about it now. I do take that point, but the fact is that they are getting serious now. I think they've been forced by City to get serious. Everton have then happened to come along and are the easier one to deal with for all the reasons that Dave's outlined, and so they're dealing with it. That doesn't mean that they won't deal with City. It's very hard to think confidently that City are going to get done, but I do have like a bit of a feeling that this is different this time, and I think City know that they're in deeper shit than the Premier League.
I think so,
because there's no time barring. There's no recourse to like a higher judicial court, and it's the number of charges, the complexity and the depth of it all, and the thing that probably, it seems counterintuitive, which makes me most think that something is going to happen, is just how long the Premier League took to bring it into the public eye. They've spent literally years on it, which tells me that they're taking it seriously and that they're getting all the ducks lined up. And, you know, for all that City crow about Lord Panic or what have you, the Premier League will also have taken counsel, and I think the timescale is a factor. I think the Premier League know what they're doing, and it comes down to almost an existential integrity issue for the Premier League, really, because it's an open secret. Everyone knows what's going on. It just hasn't been proven in this context. They've been found guilty before, twice, so it's definitely happening. The question is just whether there's a serious sanction that can be put in place which will make it stop. And I think that it's become an integrity issue for the league. The Premier League's greatest value is the integrity of the competition, how it's so much more competitive than every other league in the world. You know, you can have a Leicester win it 5 years ago. The fact that City are now just turning it almost into a one-horse race, like when Rangers were relegated out of the Scottish top 3 divisions or whatever, and it was just Celtic all the way. It's becoming like that now. No one in the Premier League wants that. No one. And we've got to remember as well that the Premier League is the clubs. It's not like some people tend to think of it as some like sort of other body like the FA. It's not. It's the clubs.
Yeah.
The Premier League is the clubs. They do not want the cheating going on. What they want to make sure they do is get it resolved. So, coming back to Everton, I don't think there's... Dave's laid out the case. I'm not going to go over all that again, but I agree with everything Dave said. It's not harsh at all. It's a bit delayed, maybe. You know, it's a shame that we've got to this stage where the Premier League's got to, you know, had to be pushed by the imminent arrival of the regulator to start getting serious. But they are getting serious now, this tells me, and they will have to continue to be serious with other clubs that come before them. So I'm expecting Chelsea to suffer probably worse than Everton, given what I know about what they've been up to. And I really think City, well, who knows what will actually come about, but City, I think, are in kicked out of the league territory.
You can subscribe to the Liverpool Way podcast on all the major platforms, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon or Podbean. Just search for the Liverpool Way, leave us a review and hit subscribe to automatically receive all new episodes. You can also head to liverpoolway.co.uk and grab a TLW season ticket for just £3 a month. There's tons of exclusive content, including match reports from every Liverpool game, weekly Premier League roundups, the TLW diary, and access to the members-only forum. Lastly, you can follow us on social media at The Liverpool Way on Twitter and at The Liverpool Way TLW on Instagram and Facebook.
Just a quick point on this. If, say, hypothetically, if Man City's punishment is nowhere near what it should be, people need to focus on that and not on Everton's punishment and go, oh, well, that's not fair in Everton. No, what happened to Everton is completely fair. Now, what happens to Man City is a separate thing entirely. And if they do get off lightly, that's what the focus should be on. It should be like, look, what Everton got punished like that. Why is City not getting punished? It shouldn't be, well, City got away with it. Why didn't Everton? That's not fair in Everton. That's the distinction that needs to be made. Everton broke the rules. They had no excuse for what they did. They benefited from it by staying in the league at the expense of other teams, and this is the punishment, which is pretty mild because of the time, and that should be the end of it. And what happens to Man City is a separate thing, and hopefully the book gets thrown at them, but, we'll see.
Not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
We'll see.
In a dream world, they'll get
but it's all hypothetical. We don't know one way or another what is going to happen, so we can't judge Everton's case on what may or may not happen with City.
And it's not about justice anyways, it's about what you can prove. And that's the difficulty with City, I think. It's what you can prove. What's just is one thing, but what you can actually prove is another. And I think that's why the Premier League have been taking so long.
Just one more thing on City. We mentioned Court of Arbitration for Sport. Apparently, this is outside of their jurisdiction. I think Jules was coming in with that point.
Oh, excellent.
It was.
I'm looking at an article on CBS Soccer that says City will be heard by an independent commission.
Sorry, Chris. I think the Premier League put in their rules that there are once the verdict's in, you cannot appeal anywhere else.
Brilliant.
It said. This article says an appeal panel would need to be created using entirely new and uninvolved members. So you're right, it doesn't exist at the moment.
Yeah, so when Everton are appealing, I've seen that Nick Harris when he was on with Lineker and Shearer, and he said about that the appeal goes before a different panel. So it's other King's Councils, judges, whoever it is who sits on the panel. It's like legal people. It will be different ones. Now, the only way City are going to get away with this is if they can bribe the panel. That's the only way they get out of it, because they can't tie it up legally.
They didn't do it,
well, they can't prove that they didn't do it because they did do it. We know that. So
they could not getting sued. Let's just say that.
Okay. So in that totally unrealistic imaginary scenario where they can prove that they didn't do it,
because they say that they've got loads of evidence that
but they're not. They're not
never shown it to anybody.
Yeah, it's
right.
It's so bad. But yeah, if you can't go above that, if you've got your appeal, which it goes to another panel, and then that's it, there's no further appeal process, then where'd you go from there? The last time they got away with it because they went to CAS. If that's not an option anymore, then it's down to the Premier League. And basically, they can do. It's in their guidelines what the punishment is for each crime. They can enforce that, can't they? What's stopping them enforcing it? City grease and some palms. That's basically.
I think why Chris maybe thinks City aren't going to get punished because the scale of what they've possibly done is so enormous that in your head you think the only thing that could really be that would really satisfy the crime, so to speak, is expulsion from the league.
From football?
Yeah.
Not from the league.
I think that's what we're talking about. It is.
And if you sit, and I make Chris correct me if I'm wrong, but then if you sit and think, are the Premier League really going to send the second richest club down to the National League?
They're not beholden to take them, by the way.
The Championship, the Football League, can decide what they want to do.
Yeah, so. the Football League, the National League, whoever. But you just think, can you see that happening? Can you see them sending them down? And because when you're that rich, a financial punishment really isn't anything. It's either
but Jules, it comes back to the Premier League as the other clubs. The other clubs that are being cheated are the ones who are the Premier League.
They are, but also those clubs are owned by rich people who know where the money is, and they might want to sell out.
Yeah,
they might want to sell out to a foreign national state. They might know that even though the Premier League, its competition gets eroded, the more City win like this, it's still bringing in the fans through the turnstiles and it's bringing in the TV money.
They wouldn't be missed though, Jules. Honestly, if Man United, if it happened to Man United would be missed, regardless of how we feel about it.
From our point of view,
no, just from football's point of view.
Well, I know that, but I'm talking about the owners.
Yeah, but
the owners of all these other clubs.
So let's.
Right, it's only affected so few of them, really. It's only affected our owners, Man United's owners.
It's affected everyone Arsenal's. With chances of winning cups and stuff, hasn't it?
But they might not see it that way.
They don't care about that, do they?
Yeah, no, they don't. He's right.
You would if you get beaten in a final by them, like Watford did.
No, they won't. They just the owners won't care.
No, but if they're playing somebody else, they might have done. That's the point. But what I'm thinking there, I've said the same thing myself, Jules, about like owners of clubs. They're looking at it and thinking, well, we'd like a bit of that. You know, we can sell out to like a oil state and make an absolute killing on it. But once they do that, they're out anyway, aren't they? You know, like, so why would they want to protect Man City for that? I don't think it makes any difference, really. It wouldn't stop somebody buying them. You know, they could still cash in. I don't think anyone's going to like go to bat for Man City except possibly Newcastle.
Ultimately, it comes down to how fairly do you think City will be punished? Is how great of the crime, how big the scale is. Will the punishment scale match the scale of the infraction? And therefore, you're always going to be disappointed.
Yeah, that's true.
And as I say, will it just look, a financial penalty is pointless to them. I think we can all agree with that. I think the best you can hope for, I don't think you'll get retrospective removal of any titles or anything like that either. I think the best you can hope for is maybe something like a 20-point deduction and a 2-year transfer embargo.
No, I think it'd be worse than that. Way worse. Be out the league.
Because there's so many charges. But I do take your point though.
So cynical.
There, Jules, because it's like say like you kill 3 people, and someone kills 500 people. You're both going to jail for like the rest of your life. It's like one punishment it should be way worse because it's so many more people, but you can't like. Do you know what I mean? It's like you can't make it more severe because there's a limit to what punishment you can give. So City are not going to get the punishment that by rights they should get, but I do think that they'll have to get something really severe.
Yeah, I mean you're going to get more life sentences for killing more people,
but it doesn't make any difference.
You've only got one life, so it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
Okay, let's. We can move on to some of the questions from the listeners now because the first one ties in directly to this. And Jules already sort of hinted at it. Paulie Dangerously, my mate Paulie, says on the forum that he asked whether we should be awarded any retrospective titles if City are sanctioned, or should those championships become null and void? Would it feel like an achievement, or would it feel empty? So, Dave, what do you reckon?
First and foremost, City should be void. Should be stripped of all of the titles. That goes without saying. What comes next, that's where the discussion, it's like, is it null and void or do you give it to the second place team? I honestly don't know the answer to that. I know it's happened in Italy and they've sort of done both because I think Inter were handed the title because of Juventus cheating, but then there was other years where there's no winner. So I don't know, it's a complicated one. I don't really know what should happen, but all I would say is if we do get like given the title, I wouldn't feel like empty or that it's cheap or anything. I wouldn't be celebrating like we won a title either, but I'd be like nodding my head and going, yeah, that's right, you know, that's deserved.
The Batistuta.
Yeah, I'd be doing the Batistuta nod. But it's not something that like I'd be celebrating or anything. Well, yeah, of course I would. I'd be celebrating just because of how funny it is. You know, it's like, City, you've had your title stripped and we've got like 3 more. United would get some as well, though, wouldn't they? I think they get 2. Is it like... I know the most recent ones, they wouldn't be stripped off.
Mourinho and Solskjaer both got seconds, didn't they?
Yeah, but they've... City have refused to cooperate since 2018, haven't they? So all these other ones they've cheated their way to. It's going to be difficult to take them off them because they haven't got the books or anything. But no, if we were given titles where we'd finish second, I'd say, would it feel like an achievement? Yeah, it's an achievement because we were the best team in the league that wasn't cheating. So it's if you finish second to Lance Armstrong, it's the same thing. So no, it wouldn't feel empty. Would feel like an achievement. Whether it should happen or not, I don't know. I can see the arguments both ways.
Paul?
Yeah, pretty much exactly what Dave said. You know, it's justice. We were cheated out of those league titles. Klopp has done.
I'm Brendan.
I'm Brendan. Yeah, Klopp has done
Stevie.
the great.
Suarez getting his medal.
Klopp's achievements are just some of the greatest ever in the history of football, in my view. Going up against that and getting those high 90-point seasons and finishing second. So yeah, I'd absolutely take it. Yeah, I'd absolutely fucking celebrate. You're right, I would. Fuck City. Fuck the cheating. We deserve. That's what we deserve. The other thing is another one for you. If not just about City, the full extent of the Chelsea stuff hasn't come out yet. But Rafa could be getting a title as well. As far as this conversation goes. So there's all kinds of stuff in the mix. But yeah, if clubs have cheated, they should definitely have the titles taken off them. All the trophies taken off them. Take off every pot they won. The Charity Shield, get that in the bin. The League Cup, get that in the bin. The FA Cup, get in the bin. You cheating bastards! I've nearly turned into Brian Clough here. And yeah, give the second place teams those trophies.
How's Rafa getting a title? He was second to United, weren't he?
I was United. Oh, fuck. Yeah. There's my memory again. Sorry, 52 boys. I was getting carried away there.
I'm doubting myself. We said that and I thought that's wrong, and then I'm thinking,
City were playing in League Two when Rafa was in charge, weren't they?
No, I was on about Chelsea.
Oh, Chelsea, right?
Chelsea one. But yeah, it was United that United beat Rafa into second place. That's right. It was the facts season, wasn't it? But yeah, I'm absolutely all over it, and yeah, I'm fucking right. I'm celebrating. Those were great teams that were robbed, absolutely fucking robbed by cheats. So yeah. Is right, fuck them off, and we'll have the trophies.
Jules, I've got a feeling me and you are going to be aligned on this. It would feel really empty to me, and I think I'd feel even more robbed than I do now.
I was thinking about this, and I was like, I don't think I've got a definitive answer. And then as I thought about it, I thought I do have a definitive answer. I've come about it the long way around, which is, yeah, they should probably be stripped of them. No, I wouldn't particularly want them. I wouldn't feel much for it. It's been and gone. It would just be a stat on a page at this point. So I suppose I would say strip them and null and void the seasons.
There'd be trophies on the trophy wall as well, though.
I do like the trophy wall,
lifted.
But we didn't lift them. It's too far gone. I think you've just got to void it all at that point.
Bring all those teams back to Anfield. Do a trophy lift with each one of those teams.
Yeah.
Not Gerrard, though. He can stay where he is.
It would be sad, those teams do deserve to. They deserve their moment at the moment, not 5 years later.
Well, that's what cheating's done to them. So you can't have that moment back.
I think punish the cheaters and remove the titles. Take the trophies off them, but I don't particularly. It wouldn't do much for me, to be honest.
Agreed. And just think about what happens, like if City hadn't cheated in the Brendan season, we win that league, then Brendan doesn't get fired 18 months later and we never get Jurgen.
Yeah, but now we get the best of both worlds.
Don't.
We got rid of Brendan and we still get the title.
Suarez gets the title and then we still get Klopp.
I'm not seeing any problem with this.
This is perfect.
I'm just imagining the timeline that City's illegitimacy didn't exist when we were going for that title, and Brandon doesn't end up getting fired, which would be awful. Because look at what we would have missed out on.
Of course, but that's not what we're talking about, though, is it? So, as Paul said, there's no downside here. We get the title, we've still got Klopp.
Yeah,
but Gerrard's not welcome back to lift it.
Are you serious about that?
I'm not serious, but I am pissed off at him. It's like every time he opens his mouth now, I'm like, oh, just shut up. This week, talking about the GOAT, Ronaldo.
Hey, him and Henderson to come back on the same flight to lift these trophies.
No.
Well, there you go.
Right, let's move on. It's a more fun one. Less about sports watching and cheating and more about who are the best looking Liverpool players, past and present. This one's from Juventus. Jules, I'll start with you.
Right, past. I'm not having a debate on this. It's Patrick Berger, the handsome bastard.
Yeah.
Set housewife's favourite, possibly house husband's favourite. Who doesn't like Paddy's Burger flowing locks? Shall I tell you? Here's one for Johnny H. Tell you he was a handsome devil still. Alonso, fucking handsome bastard. He's more handsome now than he was when he was at Liverpool, and he was handsome when he was at Liverpool.
He's in my top five too.
He's aged well, hasn't he?
Fine wine. Oh, did you see that? They sold a bottle of whiskey the other day at auction for like a couple of million quid. That's Alonso there. And just aged magnificently. Sell him in Sotheby's and he'll fetch a fortune for you. Best looking current Liverpool player. It's Alisson, isn't it? It's not even a debate there, fucking handsome bastard.
I asked Meg about it last night.
Alisson, if you're listening, grow your hair back. The short's no good. Grow it back.
I asked Meg this last night, and she says hands down Konate.
See that? Birds just don't have a clue, though, do they? I always find that it's the same. Like you speak to anyone, like
well, it's because you two think Giroud's attractive, and he's not that attractive.
Oh, he is.
He is big, handsome Ollie. Come on.
No.
But like most women would be like, no, he's not. I'm like, he is. What? Are you blind?
They're right.
What? They're not right.
Well, although I don't think Meg's right on Konate. He is a good-looking fella, but I don't think he's not. He's not. Alisson,
she thinks he doesn't look. She thinks he doesn't look like he's so good-looking. He doesn't look like a real person. It's like he's almost like
she needs
creative
to settle
rather
down
than.
There. No. Way too much.
He's got that beautiful, smooth, shiny skin.
He's not Genie Wijnaldum.
I think he's better looking than Genie for sure.
I don't think so.
No. It's the smile. Genie's smile was magnificent. It was magnifique. To use Konate's parlance.
So old school, Paddy Berger. Three of us are definitely agreed on that. Don't know whether Paul's in
Paul, mate.
It's undisputed. All four of us, Paddy Berger.
Our Ella is a big fan of Mo. She thinks Mo's gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, I showed somebody Mo's. I showed my sister-in-law Mo with his shirt off the other day, and she was.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Different kettle of fish. That
is a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, that's
his hairline's receding. He's grown it out to try and hide the fact that it's starting to disappear on the corners. I fucking know his story. I know what's going on.
So I had another one, like a more old school one, Johnny Barnes.
I got him in my top five too.
Absolutely beautiful human being. When John Barnes first came to Liverpool, fucking hell, twice. Another even older school than that, Ray Kennedy. Ray Kennedy was a proper handsome guy as well, and I had Genie on there. And in terms of present,
fucking
probably
Alisson.
Szoboslai. Don't know. Alisson, Szoboslai.
Szoboslai hasn't grown into his face yet. Give him a couple of years.
It's what Paul was saying about Szoboslai for me, that alpha male aura that he's got about him. Just that, like, he's got a presence.
Yeah.
And I think that
properly offended.
Well,
no one thinks it's Alisson. I'm properly offended by it. He's fucking big, fucking tall, dark, and handsome.
His skin's not great, though, Alisson, is it?
Listen.
Yeah, he says a...
God can't make you that perfect. That would be an outrageous thing if you'd be that good at goalkeeping and that handsome.
You think he would because he's his mate? He would make him perfect, seeing as how they're so close.
Alisson's such a perfect human being that if he wanted to, he could splash a bit of holy water on that skin, clean it right up, but he doesn't.
Yeah, perfect apart from the fascist political tendencies, but we'll leave that out of it.
Yeah. My top five was Paddy Berger, undisputed number one, then a big drop off. Fernando Torres, I was a big fan of him.
No, I don't see that at all.
Oof. Barnes, Alonso, and Kevin Keegan.
I thought about Kevin Keegan, but I went with Ray Kennedy instead. But because Kevin Keegan's a bit short though.
Yeah, Keegan had that sort of like 70s glam rock sort of elements.
Ray Kennedy was tall and tanned as well, so that was why I went with him over Keegan. But I did consider Keegan.
All right. Anything to add to that, Paul?
Shout out to Voronin as well for the long hair.
If I'm assuming we're leaving Peter Beardsley out of this conversation.
Sebastian Leto had great hair.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
I'm
like silk.
Yeah.
He did have great hair.
Best thing about him, yeah.
The only good thing about him, but
yeah,
it was great.
Let's stay on a similar vein for this one. From Josie Jones on the forum. He said that Troy Deeney said that he hated playing against Virgil because he was too big, too strong, too fast, and he smells lovely. Like, really famous quote. Virgil aside, which member of the squad do you think smells the best and who smells the worst? Now, I have a really clear idea about who smells the worst, but I don't really have an opinion on who smells the best. So, Dave, what do you reckon?
Can I include Klopp? Because I'm having Klopp as the worst, because he absolutely, yeah, he would stink of ciggies. I'm sure of it. I'd also give a shout out to Ben Doak, because he just looks like someone who's always letting off like sly stinky farts. I don't know, he's just got that look about him. Best smelling, I'm going to say Joel.
Interesting. How come? What gives you that sense?
I just think he probably, on the sly, you know, people probably won't think that, but I reckon he probably smells fantastic. If there's somebody like this, is, I don't know whether Jules was someone from the past, Jules, who looks like he smelt amazing. I'm not going to steal your thunder. Do you know what I'm talking about? You always used to say.
Oh God, no, I can't. Yeah, I did used to say, but fucked if I can remember.
You reckon he smells like a Turkish prince? That's what you always used to say.
Emre Can.
Emre Can.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
I'm surprised Emery didn't get a mention in the handsomeness.
I considered it. I'd already got me 5, but he was on the short list.
He was too slow. Yeah, Emre Can, he looked like he smelled magnificent. Yeah,
I reckon Mo's the best smelling in the current squad. I reckon he smells great. He probably has like all those privately made scents and things, and he smells sensational. The worst, I'm with Dave. I reckon it's Ben Doak, but I reckon it's because he's a little Glaswegian. He doesn't believe in aftershave. He probably wears Iron Brew to smell good.
He wears Lynx Africa.
Lynx Iron Brew.
Do you know what? I've got 2 that I reckon probably smelled great. I reckon Szoboslai's a man who knows how to use a bit of lotion.
Yeah.
And here's one for Dave. You're telling me that Darwin, with those tats and that sculpted facial hair and ponytail, is not oiling himself up?
Yeah, maybe. What about that? What does that? Does anyone know like that stuff that they have, that mate? Does that smell?
Does that make you smell? Does that make you fart?
It's just like isn't it?
Yeah, but does it stink? Because he's always got that. Like, so does his breath stink of that? I don't know. Is there a strong smell to it?
No, I don't think so.
He looks like a man who's got a mint spare every time. Smelliest? I reckon Simicast might.
He was on my short list as well.
Might not wash very often. And yeah,
You know,
Ben Doak, but he's 17. It's been unfair to say Ben Doak.
Yeah.
Of course, he's
Did
like
you
all
smell good at
17-year-old
17?
boys,
He's 18 now.
Yeah.
He was 18 last week.
So
But he smells like dupe.
The smell of Saturday night failure.
Yeah. Gosh, that brings back some memories. That scent, I'll tell you that much. I can't believe none of you said Robbo for stinkiest. I bet your Robbo absolutely fucking stinks to high heaven. Sort of a similar reason for what you said, Dave. He'd be the type to sit in the corner,
I did think about it,
and then giggle until somebody noticed it, and they'd be absolutely horrendous as well. I don't really have an opinion on who smells the best.
Well, if it's for his the worst fart, it's got to be Razor Ruddock, surely. This fella this size, he's dropping his arse left, right and centre.
Hey, have you seen how much weight he's lost now, though?
Yeah, he has actually, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's quit the
Has he had the gastric band or something?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's cheating, though, isn't it?
Hasn't he?
Yeah.
He stopped drinking.
Yeah.
That's Everton behaviour, that. Looking for shortcuts.
The Premier League should charge him for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's move on. Something a little bit more serious. Oh, no, let's stay on the funny ones for now. David Keelighan on the forum, and this one's kind of for you and I, Dave. When you saw the fanzine outside Anfield, did you ever sell to a former player or a celebrity fan? What's the strangest / funniest interaction you had doing that job?
I think the very first time I was selling it, I sold to Elvis Costello. He never bought it again, so I don't know what that says. But yeah, he bought it outside Anfield the first time I was selling it, so he'd be like the famous one. Former
Did he
players.
go?
Did he ask you if it was the
After he
programme?
bought it the first time. After the first time, he would have gone like, and I would rather read anything else than this today.
That's good.
Not bad. That was not bad. That was quite good.
Ex-players, don't remember, to be honest. And like Carrie used to buy it, but he bought it off John at a couple of away games. Then I started just sending it to him. When he was out with a broken leg, he was buying it at away games. And then I started sending him one. So no, that was the famous one. Strangest interaction. It was always if I had to sign an autograph. I know, like, that sounds mad and people are thinking, what? But it happened.
I used to piss myself when that used to happen.
It didn't happen often.
Dave loved it.
No, it didn't happen often.
Normally Norwegians, wasn't it?
Yeah, it happened, and it was like really awkward because like obviously I never felt worthy of signing an autograph. Like, why do people want my autograph? But you can't be a dickhead and say no, I'm not signing it because I'm not worthy or whatever. Because that just makes you look like a snotty bastard. So you just have to do it and just deal with the embarrassment of it. But on like the subject of signing autographs,
myself every time that happened.
I got to tell you this story. I don't think you know this story actually about my dad. He went to like a sportsman's dinner like a few years back, and he dressed in his suit and he put his Liverpool tie on and all that, like just totally like the business and that. And he took his autograph book because he's got autographs from like going back from when he was a kid. So he's got like everyone's autograph, and he took the book along not to get autographs because he already had them, but to show the players. It was all like the players from like the 60s, 70s and that. So, and my dad knows Phil Thompson, so like my dad's talking to Phil Thompson, and some guy comes over and he's asking for Phil Thompson's autograph. So like Tomo signs the autograph and he goes, and the guy then turns to me dad and he's like, will you sign that? And my dad's like, no, I'm nobody. And Phil Thompson's like, come on, Jerry, behave yourself, sign the man's book. And my dad's going, no, I'm no one. And Phil Thompson's saying to me, going, look, this is Jerry Byrne here. Jerry, sign the man's book. So my dad writes Jerry Byrne in this fella's autograph book. So there's a fella somewhere who's telling people he's got Jerry Byrne's autograph, and it's my dad. But it wasn't his fault. He didn't want to do it. It was Phil Thompson's fault. But yeah, that was great. That was funny. But Chris, what about you?
Oh yeah, I used to sell the fanzine on top of Anfield Road by that old Red Blue Cafe place, the little hole in the wall spot. And we used to get this all the time. Like day trippers would walk past you and they'd have money in their hand and be like, "Give us a program, mate." And I'd be like, "It's not the program. It's a fanzine." It's something that would routinely get under our skin. And I think this guy was like pretty obnoxious about it. He said something like, "Oh, I don't want that." And then as he walked away from me, like I mouthed "cunt" loud enough for him to hear under my breath. But as the guy walked away from me, this Newcastle fan walked past me as well. Baldy Eddie looked like about 8th generation fucking shipping bloke or something. And he taps the guy on the shoulder. He goes, he just called you a cunt. And my mum was stood next to me at the time because my mum would come up on the bus and then stand next to me and sell the fanzine before we went into the ground. And my mum went, "No, he didn't." And this Geordie, I'll never forget it as long as I live. This Geordie fella goes, "Look at him, big man, hiding behind his mum." And I was like, "Yep, you're damn right."
Bear in mind, you're what, 6'5"? I'm like,
oh god, no, 6'2".
Well, you're more than 6'2", surely. But
I'm 6'2".
What's your mum?
That's why Dave doesn't believe I'm fucking 6 foot. Then, clearly,
if you're 6'2", he's definitely not 6 foot.
I'm 6.
My mum's 5'2".
So like, how comical would that look? You hiding behind your mum.
Yeah, I absolutely was. I shat myself as well. I didn't want anything to do with that. But it was just a nice little lesson to me to not call people cunts because they don't want to buy a fanzine.
What a shit stir!
That was the graveyard place to buy
that Newcastle fan. Fucking bubble.
I know. Oh, what a dickhead! But that was the fun. There was another one. I think you and I went to Sunderland away, Dave. Like I can't remember what year it was. Maybe 2003. Abel Xavier was playing for us.
Yeah.
And I was selling the fanzine like directly outside the turnstile, and I was wearing a black Kurt Cobain t-shirt, right? And this lad came up to me and was like, fucking hell, lad, he's been dead 20 years, get over it. Guess what? It was on the guy's t-shirt who was wearing that. Fucking Bill Shankly.
All right.
That's okay. The irony there. We were pretty pumped about this at the time, you and I. I think we went to Charlton away on the coach. We were down outside the Valley. That was when we we lost badly, and it was a long journey home. But the highlight was before the game. We were sitting on the fans, and it was pissing down outside. And the team coach walked in, and this was just after we'd got wind. I think Chris Bascombe told us that Cara read the fanzine, and we were pretty pumped about it. And I remember the team bus coming in, and I saw Cara through the window, and me and him made eye contact, and he gave me like a nod, and I gave him a nod back. And I was just absolutely buzzing off it. I immediately called you and told you all about it. And that was like a cool moment rather than a funny and strange one.
When you said Charlton, I thought you were going to tell the story about the chippy. Do you not remember what happened at the
Was
chippy?
that Arsenal? I thought that was Arsenal.
That was Chris's meltdown at Arsenal. I'm on about the Charlton one.
No, go on, I can't remember that.
Oh, so do you remember the way it's that one road, isn't it? And the turnstiles are all on that road, and at the end of the road there's a chippy, and we couldn't sell outside the turnstiles. We had to be on the opposite side of the road, so we were opposite the chippy, and the queue for the chippy was like a mile long. So but we're stood outside, and this guy had been queuing up for like an hour to go on the chippy because the queue was just so fucking long. There's only one chippy within miles. So he comes out with his portion of chips, and as he steps out, he trips, and his chips just fall in the gutter. I've seen it happen, and I'm laughing, but you know me and my relationship with chips, so I was sympathising with him at the same time, oh no, this is bad. But it was his reaction to it. It was he's standing there, and he's looking at his empty hand, where the chips had fallen out, and he's looking at the chips on the floor, and then he looks back in the chippy. And then he looks down at the end of the queue, and you can see his thought process. He's like, oh shit, I've just queued for an hour. Do I get back in that queue? And I'm waiting another hour. And then in the end, his shoulders just slumped and his head went down. He just walked off. But it was so fucking funny. So I thought that's what you were going to say when you said, we're away at Charlton.
No. That is a good one, though. I do remember now.
Do you know the worst thing about Charlton away? That fucking goalkeeper. Do you remember him?
Dean Kiley.
Yeah.
Didn't applaud us, did he?
Yeah, he'd make a point of applauding all the other three sides of the ground, and then he'd take his hands down where we were behind the goal, and then he'd put them up and clap to the side again, and he used to do it every time. Absolute twat. Fucking hated him. Proper hated him.
Petty as fuck.
Yeah. Because we were clapping him. There's no need for it. Ungrateful bastard.
Right, moving on. This is one about football now. So, where was it? Oh yeah. Start with you on this one, Paul. TJ Hooker on the forum said, do you think Klopp 2.0 will in time be as good as the first team he built, or dare I say even better?
I keep sort of playing that over in my head all the time, just thinking about where's the ceiling for the team. It's kind of been weird this season because I keep seeing things that make me go, oh fucking hell, and then not quite, but then it's just ridiculously early to be thinking in those terms. I still think we're probably a couple of signings away from Klopp 2.0 being what it's eventually going to be. I still think there's, and we need some players to get into the correct positions. I think we need a number 6 to become Klopp 2.0. And I also think we need something different, another left-footed defender. But I potentially, yeah, and I'll tell you why. Because I think it's front-loaded now. It's front-loaded. You look at Darwin. Did you say Darwin?
Yeah.
Talking. Well, yeah. It's because it's so front-loaded. We had that famous front 3, but now we've got. It's not just the front 5 that we've got now. You throw Dom in there. You throw Maka in there when he's hopefully playing in his proper position. I think there's a ridiculous number of attacking options in this team, and I also think that the tactics are becoming even more attacking or attack orientated. I just don't think they're quite finely tuned enough yet. They're not drilled enough. You know, it's not embedded yet. I think we're maybe a season and a half away and a couple of signings away from being the team that we're going to be. But it's hard to know, because it all feels to me like really good, way beyond what we could expect, but not quite fully clicked. And that's, if you assume that Klopp is going to do what Klopp always does, which is lift every player to their absolute peak and just make everyone far better than they would be playing for anybody else, then yeah, I think potentially it could be. But I guess we need to see that, don't we, to be sure. But I get the sense it could be absolutely ridiculous, yeah.
Okay. Jules?
No,
I'm
the shit.
Just repeat the question in full for me, just so I get this right in my head.
Do you think Klopp 2.0 will in time be as good as the first team he built, or dare I say, even better?
No, because I don't think it's in terms of scale of achievement. No, I don't think so. I think that team was just relentless, and the way it played, however this new team will play, it won't play that same way, and I don't think there was anything more thrilling than that team at its height, with Sadio and Mo and Bobby up front, and the sort of the Red Arrows counter attacks, and then the way the fullbacks bomb forward, Robbo and Trent in sort of tandem and all that, the midfield sort of doing the heavy lifting sort of defensively. I just think there was a beautiful fluency to that team that I don't think, whatever this team is, it won't be that. And I found that team to be just utterly thrilling, dominant, and just I had every bit of confidence in them, even when I was being a pessimist. Like, I still thought they'd go out there and give a performance. Whatever this team is, I don't think it'll ever quite reach those heights, because those heights were just. We were saying at the time that team was maybe the best team in our history.
Yeah.
And it's a hell of a thing to say that Klopp's going to build a team that's better than the best team ever in our history. I think this team's got the potential to be very, very good. I think this season there's been some sort of false flags a little bit, where I think sometimes our results have been better than our performances.
Yeah.
And so I still don't have full confidence in this team to go and sustain it over a season. And we're not. This isn't the finished article, is it? Paul's right. There's another season and a half maybe before you start to see the fully finished work. But will it be better than that team? I don't think it ever will be, because for me, because I've just the way I view that team now. Looking back with hindsight, it's just like just the confidence I had in them, and the thrill I got from watching them play, either on telly or watching them live. It's just I don't think it'll ever be replicated for me.
Mm-hmm. Just the relentlessness of it as well, Jules. Like the winning the machine that they built, without cheating. Yeah.
And just think about the transformative signings that Alisson was and Verge was. Mm-hmm. I don't know where those transformative signings come. Like even a truly great six, if we signed that.
Well, Fabinho was as well in his own way.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is that going to be any better than when we signed Fabinho? So we Alisson's got years left in him. Verge has had a resurgence this year. We've got. I don't think. Mo aside, because he's still here from that team. I don't think Jota, Nunez, Gakpo and Diaz, all four of them, will ever thrill me as much as Bobby and Sadio did alongside Mo.
I don't think the quality is up to their standard either. I don't think they can be as good as those three were.
Well, we're using 5 when 3 used to do, so that tells me that those 3 were, that's no knock on the new team, by the way. I actually like. I really like Jota. I think like there's a lot to be said for having someone who's just like a stone cold finisher from 5 yards out. Although again, he made me look like a prick there before the game, the last home game, because I was like, his signature's tap-ins, then he goes and pings one in from the edge of the area. So he can do more than just tap-ins. But yeah, I hope this team hits those heights, but I don't think it will ever. It will have to go a hell of a long way to ever thrill me as much as that team did.
Yeah. I think as well, it's as you said. I agree with pretty much everything you said there, like word for word. I I think that you have to look at the fact that they played 27 games to start a season and they won 26 of them. It's like, that's like unprecedented almost. Just like, record breaking. No one's ever done it in the history of the game. Like the points tallies that these teams racked up, hardly anybody's done it legitimately in the history of the game. But yeah, and I think to a certain extent it was also like lightning in a bottle. You look at the age profile of that team. We all know it got past its best, and the ending for it was quite unbecoming in the end, and that was more down to sort of inaction than wrong action in terms of replenishing the squad when we needed to. But you look at I look at that first 11 that we had during that era, and there was not a single player in the league, maybe other than De Bruyne, that I would swap for one of our lads, and what they did for us and what their role was in the team, and how absolutely well they carried it out. Like man for man, I would have picked the Liverpool starting 11 as a Premier League starting 11 or the whatever. I don't feel that way anymore, not even close. So
but you know what though, Chris and Jules, just let me come back a little bit on that. I 100% agree with everything you're saying about that team. That team is the greatest we've ever had. Absolutely incredible, phenomenal. But what I'm doing is what I'm thinking about when I said maybe is I'm projecting forward, because don't forget those players
and that was the
were
question,
not bought.
to be fair.
Those players were not bought as they performed in that great team. They were bought with potential, and Klopp turned every one of those players into a world beater. Andy Robertson was relegated. Gini Wijnaldum was relegated. Mo was a Chelsea reject. I could go on and on and on and on and on. They all had mediocre is probably harsh.
I think it's a bit harsh on Mo, Paul.
Not one of them had a stellar pedigree when they came in.
I think that's really harsh on Mo.
Klopp turned every single one of them into an absolute world beater. Mo wasn't a world beater when he walked in the door. He was a good player, very good player. And I suppose what I'm thinking about is, can Klopp, because it's Klopp, isn't it? It's Klopp what we're talking about. Can Klopp do with these players what he did with those? And I suppose the question for me is, if he can, and I certainly think he has the capacity to, whether he'd be able to or not is another matter, because I think there's an element of luck that goes into it, whether he's able to get every player that he wants or needs. But if he can, I think there's potential for this to go past it. But that is not to diminish or to disagree with anything you two just said about that team, because it was an incredible team. But I suppose for me it's a reflection of how I rate Klopp rather than I rate the current players.
Yeah, and to be absolutely fair to you, the question was framed that way, whether it can in time exceed, and there's certainly, it's not out of the realms of possibility, but very,
they're
very
nowhere
difficult.
near now. They're absolutely nowhere near that team at the moment.
Dave?
I agree with you and Jules. I think this, hopefully, this will be a great team, but I think probably the ceiling is probably like a 90-point team, whereas we, 99, 97 in a couple of seasons. I don't see us reaching those heights again. As well, like the league's changed a bit. It's more difficult to get that many points. I mean, even City are not getting that many points anymore. It's just a bit more competitive. There's more difficult games. I just don't
Villas
think.
And West Ham's and Brightons and
and not that it was easy a few years ago, but I do think it's more competitive now. At the top end, anyway. Certainly, the bottom teams are probably worse. Although we've just dropped 2 points to Luton, so I think I've got high hopes that this is going to be a great team, but I don't think it'll ever be as great as the original Klopp team.
Mm-hmm. And I think if the only thing that these lads can do that the first Klopp team didn't is lift that trophy at Anfield for us all to see it, and if they do that, they'll be remembered just as fondly. Let's go on from that and look at a question from Remy on the forum, our old mate Remy. This is a good one, actually. Dave, signings that you were desperate for us to get, crestfallen when it didn't happen, but ultimately it worked out for the best.
Karol Poborski. I wanted to sign half of that Czech team, and we got the good ones, and United got Poborski, but I was proper gutted because at the time we were playing with wing backs, and we needed like a right wing back because Rob Jones was having injury problems and that, and I thought he's like perfect, just bombing up and down that right hand side. Thought he'd be great, Maybe he would have been, who knows, but he went to United and stunk the place out. But yeah, that was one I really wanted at the time. There's probably loads of others as well. When you start talking, you'll probably mention them. I'll be like, oh yeah, forgot about him. But that was the one that jumped out at me.
Yeah, and you're not gonna say that about the one I'm gonna mention, because it was borne out, and you'd said it all along, and I was wrong.
Who's that?
Big time. I still think Klopp would have made him a better player than he has proven since. But I wasn't crestfallen when we didn't get him, but I really wanted Timo Werner.
Oh right, yeah, no.
Yeah, because I watched loads of there's nothing going on. Yeah, there was nothing going on during the pandemic, so I watched loads of his games for Leipzig, and I thought he was ace, and I thought he would be absolutely what we needed. And he went to Chelsea, and his career just dived off a cliff since then. So that definitely worked out for the best. Jules, what about you?
I really struggle to think. I usually focus on like the players that were good that we didn't sign. So I'm still like in mourning that we never signed Lisa Razou and Desai back in the day, and Sheringham rather than
Alexis Sanchez.
Yeah, I mean, but that was when I was actually I did come around thinking, well, did that work out for the best? Because what exactly did he do?
Well, I thought
at
he was
Arsenal
really
and
good.
Yeah, but what did he actually get them at the end? Like at Arsenal and Manchester United, I'm wondering really, did he he really have it enough as I thought he did? Because I thought he'd have been perfect for us at the time, but yeah, I sort of I don't really think about the near misses, to be honest, and think like in terms of they turned out to be shit, because I can't really remember any. The ones we usually missed out on were good, not shit. So yeah, I think the closest I'd come to was Sanchez, because I really don't think he did anything much at Arsenal. He scored some goals, he was good for them, but what really did he get? How much further did he push them? And then he sort of just like went shit at United very quickly.
That's becoming a theme now, isn't it?
Mm.
Well, yeah, that's quicksand of shitness at Old Trafford.
He might have been one of the ones that started that, to be honest.
Yeah, no, he might have been.
Yeah.
He might have been. So yeah, I that's not me. Like, I just never focused on like, I wanted him. Oh, he turned out to be shit. I just usually wanted the really good ones, and they never came. I still pine after Lisa Razou. Yeah, I fucking loved Lisa Razou so much. He'd have been great.
We signed Mark Kennedy instead.
Yeah, I just Lisa Razou. He'll always be. I used to fucking love playing as France on the like actual soccer and stuff, and he was great. And I had that France '96 shirt and the France '98 shirt. Just loved them. Great,
I was at a sportsman's dinner once, and Ron Yates was there, and I asked him like, why didn't we sign Lisa Razou? And he said he was too small.
Ugh. I thought he was going to say he said he was Jerry Byrne or something. Then. Yeah, well, I mean that's the sort of it's the same with Roy Evans was denied signing Sheringham, right? Because they said he was too old.
Mm.
It's like maybe let the manager sign the players and you shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Paul, you got any input on this one?
Yeah, well, a few sprang to mind for me. I mean, one, I don't think he was ever linked with us. But our player I really, really liked and wanted to play for us was Davids, Edgar Davids. Thought he was a fantastic player and he would have been great for us. But I don't think there was a link there. One, that there was a link.
Paul, I think you're misunderstanding the question here.
What's the question?
Like, ultimately it worked out for the best, because like they were shite.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Oh, no, I haven't got a clue then.
You've read the first half of the question. Signings you were desperate to get and you were crestfallen when it didn't happen.
Paul doesn't focus
so Lizarazu, what, you thought Lizarazu was shit?
No, he said... He said
he answered that in the way you were answering it.
You, like me, Paul, clearly don't focus on players who are shit and go, yeah, that worked out. We just focus on the good ones we missed out on.
Yeah, but you read the question at least. He didn't stop halfway through like Paul did.
I thought it was, who did you want? And you were gutted that we didn't get.
Yeah, and then it says, but ultimately it worked out for the best. That's why I said Poborski. Where did you think I was going with that?
Oh, I don't know, you've got some mad ideas. I thought it was his hair had turned or something.
Fucking hell.
Like I've got a fucking clue, boys. No idea.
Fair enough. Well, let's move on to one that Dave has put in just for himself. I don't think any of the three of us we have too much humility to even take it on. But
or footballing ability. Although you could probably get away with it, Chris. You're a decent player.
Why the fuck are you opening this can of worms? Just move on to Man City.
He's the man, isn't he?
He doesn't need this shit.
He's threatened to fire me unless I fucking put this one in. He says he'll have Dan Corleone hosting the podcast if I don't put this in. So.
John's probably on a flight out to yours now. The question is profitability.
All right, we'll do it. I'll entertain you just so we can push back. Razor asks, you are back at the peak of your footballing ability, whatever age that was.
The peak.
You've won a competition to play for Liverpool for any season. You've got to be on the pitch for at least 75% of the game time, which is kind of like, I think what the point he's trying to make there is you got to be like physically able to do it. Which season would you pick and what position would you play? You may have to consider who you are ousting.
Okay, so I've thought about this loads, so it's an easy one.
Shocking.
So is it Usher or Dalglish?
No. Behave. I'm more realistic than that. Fucking hell.
John Barnes.
So, as much as I'd love to have played with Suarez, I'm realistic enough to know there's no room for me in that team. I'm not going to put myself in ahead of Sturridge or Sterling. No,
that's really big. That
worked so well.
I'm not good enough to play in that team.
And similarly, like my style of play, I'm like, well, I could play in between Sadio and Mo, but I know I wouldn't have done it as well as Bobby. So again, that's another one where I'd be like, okay, no.
Again,
style-wise,
very magnanimous.
No, because I'm like a 9.5. I'd drop off. I'm not a 9, not a 10. I just play in that little gap. So it would work with Sadio and Mo, but again, Bobby's great there. So the other one, this is like the only opening that I see for myself, like when I'm being realistic about it. I could replace Heskey as Owen's partner. Like, my skill set works really well with Michael's, and I think we could have done a lot of damage together if he'd have put me in there instead of Heskey.
Christ.
That's the one that I'd say.
Poor Michael Owen.
No, it'd work with his pace and my intelligence, playing little passes through turn, getting on the end of his crosses when he whizzes down the side, whipping them in. It'd work. It'd be really good.
I've dialed 999, boys. Don't worry, the ambulance is on its way.
Yeah. So the only realistic answer to this, I think, is the 78-79 season where we conceded 16 goals and we would play in goal behind Hansen and Tomo and Phil Neal and Alan Kennedy and Emlyn Hughes. That's the only one where it would be remotely tenable, I think.
What about if you played just in front of them? Like holding the midfield in front of them?
No, because I didn't have the engine for that.
Yeah, but you let Souness do it.
So I would defend. I'd be Sammy Lee then, basically, or Ray Kennedy.
It wouldn't be Ray Kennedy.
It'd
be Sammy Lee.
It'd be Jimmy Case, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Jimmy Case. Yeah.
Jimmy Case, Terry McDermott, Souness.
I don't know. Jimmy Case was a really good footballer as well.
Yeah, he was, but
really got the credit for that.
You were saying about like, because that team's so good, you feel like you could slot in and they could cope with having you there. Yeah. So you're going to have to pick somebody to miss out. So which one of them midfielders are you taking out to play yourself in there?
I'm not.
See, I think you take Jimmy Case.
Ray Clements out and I'm playing in goal.
That's people would just be shooting from outside the box. Yeah. I think that's too dodgy, that one.
But Chris,
we didn't have Rushy then, did we?
Not a problem.
No, David Johnson.
Well, I couldn't. No.
Actually, that's making me think maybe I could play up front with Kenny in that team.
Yeah.
No, I'm too similar to Kenny. It wouldn't work. It'd need the speed.
I'm too similar to Kenny. End the pod now. I'm too similar to Kenny. Fucking hell.
The only thing that's similar about you and Kenny is you both sit in the main stand, and that's where the fucking comparison ends.
I need John on this pod. Some moral support.
Killed me, that ass. Honest to God, I'm too similar to Kenny. Fucking hell,
Jules, you got anything to say about this?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I've never had the football ability to play anything other than the level I did. That's and I'm not even going to pretend.
Same as everyone else on this pod, Jules.
Yeah,
quite right.
Not going to pretend.
I think Brownie's the best player on the pod.
Oh, Monty's gonna be steaming.
Monty's absolutely gutted.
No way. I skinned Monty a bunch of times when we played. He's not that good. He's a slow fullback.
A slow fullback who played in
Big
midfield
shots fired.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
looked like a slow fullback.
I remember
Brownie's
one
a good
time when we
player.
played. Ted's good as well. Ted's a really good, a smart footballer, like really skillful and
Can't shoot.
I thought Ted was good, and Dan is a good goalie. In fact, I'm rating all these players above you, to be honest.
I'm sticking John on the left side. There's probably 50% of the teams we've had over the years.
Just for his delivery alone.
Have we got any more questions?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. But I am sticking with Brownie as the best player on the TLW pod. Absolute brilliant player, I thought. Okay. So that's too similar to one we've done already. Johnny H, and I think this one was delivered on Twitter. What's the worst Liverpool performance or match you've seen live? I'll go to you first on this one, Jules.
Do you know what? I thought long and hard about this, and because my memory's shit, I can't remember very much. But do you know what? I was only thinking about games at Anfield, and I forgot about the semi-final against Villa in the FA Cup, and that was
Was that the Lovren shot game?
Yeah. That might be, because like Athens was terrible, but like that, you know, I don't feel like we absolutely disgraced ourselves in that when we were beaten by a fairly decent team, you know. So it was the European Cup final, so I was all right about it. And there's been some stinkers at Anfield that I just can't remember, but I know I've seen them. Blackpool at Anfield and the Hodgson, that was right down there.
Northampton.
Right down there. I wasn't that.
Mine's
bad.
a Hodgson one too.
Yeah.
I didn't go to the Northampton one. Go on, which one's yours?
Mine's a Hodgson one, pretty much his last one. The 1-0 defeat at Anfield to Wolves on December 2010, and he got fired a couple of days later. And they were bottom of the league, and they won. And the cop were chanting Hodgson for England, and chanting for Dalglish as well. And I know it's the end of December, but by God was it cold that night, and I had to hoof it back into town, and I was just one of the coldest I've ever been at a game.
I remember that game.
Yeah, it was just absolutely miserable. And we were sat in 12th position after that game, below Everton, with a -2 goal difference.
Yeah, horrific. Absolute car crash.
Were they cheating though?
Thinking about that.
You got to ask that question.
Paul, what's yours?
Loads of those. Rafa's last season, Hodgson's season, Brendan's last season, all sorts of merge into one. There was just a big black cloud hanging over the team. But the one that's really in my mind, and as you know, I've not got the best memory for this sort of stuff, but the one that's in my mind is Havant and Waterlooville. So that was we actually won 5-2, but I think we were 2-0 down at one point.
Yeah, Skirtle's debut.
Yeah, I think Lucas scored. Took out Harry. It's the one and only. I think he was about 6 at the time. Put him off football for life. He's not asked about footy now. It's the one game I took him to. It was just an absolute shit show. It was horrendous. So I'm going to go for that one.
I'm struggling to pin down one. Like Paul saying there about Rafa's last season, there was loads under Hodgson as well. There was some bad ones under Houllier towards the end. Rodgers after everybody left, and the hangover from not winning the title. You could pick any number of games from any of them. One that stood out, there was a European game under Houllier, just in terms of it just being a horrendous game, and we didn't even lose. It was 0-0. It was against some Eastern European side. Can't remember who it was. It might have been from like Czech Republic or something. And I don't think we even had a shot in the game. It was absolutely horrendous, and it was freezing cold. And the only thing I really remember about it was there was quite a lot of empty seats, and where I was sitting I had like empty seats either side of me, which made it even more cold. And it was just a miserable night, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Why have I showed up to this game? It was so bad. So there's that one. I'm trying to think if there's any under Klopp which were like really bad. I tell you, not the whole game, second half of the Seville final. That was a bad one.
From your mind.
Yeah, that was a bad one. That.
Weren't we in the Camp in Fairness for that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was just shit.
It was all set to be such an amazing night as well. We were having a great time. Half time, we're winning. And then the second half happens, and I don't know, there was fights breaking out in there and everything. Remember when we were leaving? So the atmosphere just turned horrible in there. So that was bad.
One of my other ones as well, in terms of games that I've seen live, I think it was 2003, and you and I went to Old Trafford, and we lost 4-0 when Sammy got sent off after 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And Mike Riley ref the game. He ordered a red card and a penalty, and then they got another penalty in that game as well. I think as soon as Sammy got sent off, like, Gerrard took Milan Baros off and replaced him with Igor Biscan. Owen was injured, and so it's like Heskey up front all by himself for 85 minutes.
Could have been me.
It could have been. Hey, you know what? I actually don't think we'd have suffered a drop-off that day.
There you go. You see, that's the point.
I'm reading a match report now. To their credit, Liverpool managed to claw their way back into the game despite their man disadvantage, but failed to register a single shot on target during the 90 minutes with lone striker Emil Heskey a full-on figure. Yeah, that tracks. There would have been no drop-off at all if you'd have played that game. So, yeah. All right. Has everybody had a go on that one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay. Let's just see if there's any more that we can squeeze in. One more. What do you reckon, Dave? Are there any more of the other ones we haven't?
Yeah, I've got two left on my list.
We're into our third hour now, boys.
Okay, well, this will be a quick one. If you could live in a fictional world from a TV show for 48 hours, which would you choose? That's from John Username on the forum.
Right, I'll go with this one.
Go on then.
I'll jump in with this. I'd live in the Baltimore of the Wire. I want to be Omar's non-homophobic mate, and it'd be like being at school. I sat between the two hardest lads in school. It was the second hardest and the third hardest in our year group. I sat between them in form time, so I got very little shit in school. Knocking around with Omar would be like that times a fucking million. It'd be fucking great strutting around there.
Okay, I'm gonna have to jump in here. So, you laughed at me when I said I could have played up front with Michael Owen, but you think just because you like hip-hop, you could survive in Baltimore?
No.
You think you could survive for 48 hours?
The whole point is being stood next to Omar.
No chance. That's the most unrealistic thing that's been said on the pod tonight.
Get the fuck
Omar
out
wouldn't
of
have
here.
used to
You
next to him
compared
blasting
yourself
Will
favourably to
Smith.
Kenny Dalglish.
Okay, it's the second most ridiculous thing said on the pod tonight.
Yeah. I can just imagine Omar stood there on the corner doing his stuff. I haven't really seen that much of The Wire. And you're there with your Walkman playing Will Smith records. I don't think that's going to go down very well at all, Paul.
Saying you probably shouldn't be selling drugs, you know, Omar. Do you not think about maybe a more productive career? Mine for this one is Only Fools and Horses.
Nice.
Spent 48 hours with Del and Rodney and Uncle Albert.
Most TV shows you watch these days, they're all everyone's an anti-hero, and it's not it's funny and it's an enjoyable drama, but you wouldn't want to live there. So I had to think long and hard about this. And the obvious answer is fucking Cheers, right? Hanging out in the bar in Boston, watch the Celtics, the Red Sox, hang out with Sam, Norm, Cliff, Carla. Who wouldn't want to do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cheers.
You walk in, everyone goes, Jules, when you walk in the bar.
There you go, that's what you want.
That'd be good.
That was when he walks in the weddies before the match.
Thomas Frost.
All right. This one's even more obvious, but Baywatch. Moving on. All right, let's have a look at the Man City game at the weekend. Thanks, by the way, for all those questions. There were loads more, and we'll get to them another time. Took it a little bit light-hearted there because of all of the sports washing and points deductions and all that kind of stuff. But it might be about to get a little bit more miserable again now, because we're talking about what has traditionally been the toughest fixture of the season for us, Dave. A trip to Man City, where we never usually get a fair shake. We don't often produce our best. We have the scepter of a 12:30 kickoff after an international break. Is this just a case of getting out of there without losing?
Oh, I'd snatch your hand off for that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I'm fearing the worst. Not looking forward to it. Probably would be looking more forward to it if we were playing it on Sunday, but the 12:30 kickoff, all our South American players travelling back. It depends a lot on those injuries that they've apparently got, though. If that's bullshit and they all play, it's going to be a bit deflating. But if some of them do miss out, Edison, I'm thinking possibly Haaland's got an injury. There's others. If those two missed out, it changes things for me, and I'd feel differently about it and think that we can go there and win. Otherwise, I just expect some kind of like VAR controversy and like just we fight back valiantly after going behind like after 2 minutes, because that's the worst thing about playing City. It's like, look, just do not concede against them in the first 15 minutes, because I'm sick of them like scoring in the first few minutes of games. It happens all the time, and like it's usually shit teams. I'm like, look at the state of you. You know, you can't even hold out. And then it happened to us. I think it was last season, didn't it? Like we conceded dead early, and I'm like, oh fucking hell, not us as well. So go there, don't give nothing away early, play ourselves into the game, and then hopefully we can get something. But I do fear the worst, more because of referees and VAR than anything else. But yeah, because it's City as well, you know, we've not got a great record there. I'd be delighted with a draw, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Paul, cheer us up a bit, man.
Oh, I'm not sure if I can. I definitely would take the point.
Well, if you can't, then there's no hope for anyone.
I'd definitely take the point. I mean, I don't see how you're ever not saying that, really. You know, against going there against City, it's just it's the hardest place to go, isn't it? Really, really tough. I don't believe any of the injury stuff. I think it's absolute bullshit. For me, it is a bit of a test for us, not in the sense of to go there and win. Can we go there and win? I want to see us perform, and obviously nothing is going to sweeten a defeat. But if we went there and got a really strong point, you know, we went there, went toe to toe with them, and came away with the points, I'd be absolutely made up with that, because I think this team needs a bit of a test. I think this team needs to show it can raise its game. It's part of the, you know, if they're going to become something great. It goes a little bit back to the question we dealt with about an hour and a half ago. That, you know, this team has got a lot of developing to do, and you're developing against the biggest and the best obstacles, and this is one. But, you know, I don't see how you can hope for anything more than a point going there, to be honest. I mean, you know, keep it tight, strong performance, and then, you know, Dave's boy snatches victory from the jaws of a draw at the end. So that's conceivable, but I don't think it's likely. And I'm certainly not having all this injury stuff. It's bullshit that every single one of those players is going to be fit. Potentially not Edison, but I think everybody else will.
Probably wheels of Bruyne out as well.
Yeah. I also, you know, we're a team that's still got big questions over it, you know, in certain positions. So yeah, but it's a test, isn't it? If we can raise our game, put in a performance, I'll be made up. But a point is probably the best I think we can hope for.
And Jules, a lot of talk about City's injuries, but there's a little bit of uncertainty over who we're going to have available for, especially because we're recording this quite earlier in the week, and there's people to come back from internationals. But, you know, Gomez and Konate missed the last game. We're expecting them to be back. Gravenberch has got a slight knee injury. Curtis, you know, we're not quite sure about him yet. Robbo's definitely out, which means in all likelihood Costas at left back. I guess a lot of it will just be about what sort of team we can put out and what kind of strength that we have on the bench to help turn the game for us or keep us in the game. Because we know City have a lot of ability in that department.
What are you on about? We're going to go in there and twat them 5-0. What's the problem? Yeah. I obviously agree with all that. You know, we had the injuries were out not before the international break. We don't know what shape people are coming back in and how people have healed up who haven't got an international duty while we're away. I think we'd all take the point if it was offered to us right now. It's a tough place to go. We've not done well there recently, and then there's the 12:30 thing, and it's just about. Curtis is back for this, but he's available, but he was injured for the last game, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Any news on him? We've not had any news.
Yeah, I think he's back. He's supposed to be expected to be
good to get
fit.
him back.
Yeah.
Good to get him back. Get him Szoboslai. And McAllister's back because it was only a 1-game suspension for 5 yellows, right? Mm-hmm. So, but he
number
might
6
no, actually,
definitely
don't,
coming on Saturday.
Don't
Hopefully
no.
not 7 as well.
Do you know what? He probably won't play. He was shit in the last 12-30 game after an international break. He looked like he was a player who'd played thousands of miles away a couple of days earlier.
It was altitude though, wasn't he? It wasn't a normal international break. He was playing at altitude as well.
Yeah, I'd still maybe give that one consideration.
Yeah.
So, God, can't play Endo away at City. Yeah, it's a tough one. The injuries are a tough one. I don't know if Gravenberch will be fit either. I think the main thing is just, as Dave said, don't concede in the first 15-20 minutes. Just keep it, go away, keep it tight. You know, don't play defensively because that's asking for trouble. But play sensibly on the counter and hit them when you can and see what happens. We'll probably lose 3-0.
Yeah, I think right, my little cat that I'm fostering's just come in the room. Hey, kitty. Forgot what I was going to say then. Indeed, Dave, the league table, right? Like, we're a point behind them at the moment. A draw's fine, right? Like, you just don't want to be falling 4 points behind them at this stage. Like, if we can keep it within a point by the time they come to Anfield, whenever that is, like, if we do have aspirations of winning the title, it's just important that we don't get too far behind because history shows us that you can claw them back in slightly, but you don't want to be giving them a lead.
No, definitely not. I'd be, at that point, I mean, they've dropped points in the last game away at Chelsea. They've dropped other points. So this is not the stage of the season where they reel off like 20 wins on the bounce. That usually happens from February onwards. So being a point behind them at this point is fine. They could drop points next week. Don't know who they're playing, but they'll have some difficult games where they could drop points and we could overtake them. If we go 4 points behind, that's a big ask. So just don't lose this weekend. The thing is, we are capable of winning. If you play this game 10 times, how many are we going to win? Maybe 2, yeah. But it could be one of those 2 out of 10 games. So it's entirely possible that we go there and win. It's just less likely, but it's not impossible. We might go there and win, but it's not something that like you can bank on or feel confident about. But it's possible.
And them conceding 4 against Chelsea gives me heart, gives me encouragement.
Because it could have been more. It wasn't a fluke that Chelsea got the 4.
They were a mess, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were all over the place defensively in that game. It was bizarre.
They were. Chelsea gave them a lot of problems, and we've got better attacking players than Chelsea, so in theory, we should be able to give them problems as well.
Definitely.
Do you know the way Gallagher was running at them in that game? It does make, going back to what we were saying about Dom before, if Dom could bring what we were seeing for Hungary last week into this game, and he had the sort of space that Conor Gallagher was getting, he really could do something. But you just know Guardiola going into this game, all he'll be doing is drilling them about that. Regardless of whether they're playing us, after that result, he'll be gutted about the amount of space that was being given away and the lack of control, and he'll be totally focused on that.
He's not been able to work with them now, so that's a good thing, really. The international break, that's one benefit from it.
Yeah, maybe. I still think tactically he'll be setting them up far more for control and for shutting down space than doing what they did. I think he'd be completely pissed off about the way they played against Chelsea. Just the lack of control and all the space that there was all over the pitch is so un-City-like. So there'll be a reaction to that, I think.
I'm going to go for a pulsating 2-2 draw. That we'll fall behind and we'll come back in the game. 1-1. Yeah. Jules?
4-0 to us.
All right. Okay. Nice clarification.
I'm going to go with you, Chris. 2-2. That sounds right to me.
2-2. All right. Well, I think we'd all take any of those results. Let's hope it goes that way. We've gone quite a bit longer than we intended to. Well, I think this was always going to be the case when we're introducing stuff like best looking players and smelliest players and allowing Dave to talk about how good at football he was and that kind of stuff. So hopefully it's an entertaining listen for you guys. Thank you very much for submitting your questions. Dave and the boys will be back straight after the City game on Saturday. Hopefully get that one up nice and quickly for you if it's a positive result. But until then, thanks for listening and we'll catch you soon.
Well, the best word I can say, but will describe this was boom. Woo, what was this? It was really good.